Well, hey, dear viewers. So I've been seeing a lot of things around about Scorn's combat, and I've been seeing about for like a week or so because the game's been out for over a week now, and I think it's maybe time that I throw my hat into the ring on this debate on Scorn's combat. I've seen both sides of the aisle of like people saying, "Oh, it's bad. It's like it's too heavy type thing." Especially the area where you're descending deeper into the crater, and there are fucking tons of them, or that or that it's really good and you're just playing the game wrong. However, I'm going to tell you that both of these sides are completely wrong. So let me give you a brief rundown on how like combat and enemies work in this game. Apart from the little spraying ones at the start that you just hit with your piston gun, the first thing you notice is they just kind of wander around. You got these little chucky creatures, and they wander around the area that you're in. And these little points that they can crawl into, and then they'll crawl out elsewhere. These creatures do not try to pursue you, but they will attack you if you get too close. And if you attack one of them, then the others in the nearby area will immediately come rushing to your position to defend the one that you've attacked. Even a blind man could see that the game is effectively trying to discourage you from attacking these creatures when you don't desperately need to. Now, I've never actually seen anyone accuse Scorn of being a shooter, at least not directly. And anyone who says that, the reviews on Scorn are mixed is a liar, because they're actually mostly positive. But, this type of combat is pretty decent, and it's, not not your usual style of combat. It's pretty interesting, and I quite like what they've done with it. But why in the Scorn is the combat bad? Like, I heard people describe it as clunky or difficult, which, no, I think it should be. I think it should be hard. Like, the combat in this game should be fucking punishing, right? Of course, things like ammunition, if you know where to look, then there's actually quite a lot of it in the game, to the extent that I would say that there's even a little bit too much. But Scorn does not complement this form of combat, because the problem is especially with how short it is. First off, it doesn't use this combat enough. It's literally just in one area of the game. It should really do it a lot more. But first off, the main problem is just how small these areas actually are, and how many of these little chuckies they throw into it. The main area is that, like, I could criticize for this, is that one with the lift puzzle, where you have to sort out all those little rotary bits to actually go up and down and get that lift onto the crane. Is that area is very small, and there's like 5 of the fuckers in that area. There's a point where the little chicken chucky actually blocks the doorway of you being able to get out, and it does it again later on. And it's like, yeah, well, you could stand back and it'll go away, but that's like the thing. They're really slow and it takes time to do it, and because it's so cramped, you're effectively just forced to like sit in a little fucking corner as this thing moves off. And I don't think that really complements this style of combat. If you want like this style of combat very much does work for what Scorn wants to achieve, but the actual layout of its map doesn't really complement that. What it should be is that the map should have more rooms and more little corridors to go down, so that you aren't just forced down one area. So you're not just forced to wait back a while these creatures move away. Especially if Scorn was more of an exploration game, like we, assumed it would be, where it kind of actually, throws, like what Subnautica did, where it just throws you into this world. It's like, go for it, find the story as you go along. I feel like Scorn in general would have, benefited if it was more like that, and the combat especially, because it would have been like, oh, well, I can't go down that route because there are a lot of monsters there. If I attack them, a bunch of, like, a little horde of them is going to come after me, so I better go down this route. It forces this weird, like, way of exploring the world, because I think Scorn is a game where you should be constantly, like, keeping on moving, and that sort of style of combat might be a way to encourage you to go down sort of paths that you would not have otherwise gone for. There is also another little trick that was kind of pulled, but not quite, where in the chapter with the big fucking Choku Queen, my big game ago, my beautiful game ago, if you care, those things where you hurt it actually alerted those creatures to your position, right? And in a later bit in that where you tried to go get ammunition for the shotgun, these two big fucking monstrous Chokus would have came right for you. Now this could have also been used in an interesting way if it was like more things that you did would alert them to you as well. And so it could be like there could be times where maybe even getting into a scrap with them might be beneficial because it's like it saves you getting into a fight with more of them later on. It's like, well, if I had killed that one earlier on when I had the chance, then it might not be coming to bite my ass right now. It's like sort of where it's not even encouraging you to do combat, but it's like there is a sort of chance where it sort of does work. It's a bit of that unknown type of feeling, I guess. Now, it feels like there was going to be a lot more combat in the game originally because there was like the blasted labyrinth where it felt like we're probably going to have to fight more of those homunculus critters. Where the whole thing probably would have just been like, they let them expend their ammunition, then lob a grenade in their back. Because those homunculi are definitely far more aggressive than the Chokus are. Because, I can't imagine they really particularly want to be squished into juice. I don't think that the whole combat of this game should be what people who are praising it think it should have been, of literally just run away from the scary monster and cower in a corner until it goes away. I feel like it should have been more of a pick your battles wisely type of thing, where it's like, yeah, sometimes it'll work, but sometimes it also won't. Very much depending on the circumstances you find yourself in. Like most things in this game, it's, a very good, unique idea, but just falls slightly short of the mark. And yeah, this video is a little bit of a response to Alchemy because someone sent me that video and asked me, what are my thoughts on it? Well, here are my thoughts on it. And speaking of Alchemy, he likens it to like the Xenomorph from Alien Isolation, but less lethal. However, the problem with that is the reason the Xenomorph in Alien Isolation worked is because the areas you were in were they were larger. There were more places for you to go, more routes for you to go down. Scorn is far more of a straight line from one area to the other. Like in a few areas it's a little bit more open, like around the Crater Queen, but generally speaking, especially on the way down to her, it's very, very narrow path. There are only very small areas to run around, which are like, intentionally designed there so that you can just run around the bigger, floppier ones. Remember, fellas, pick your battles wisely, for wars start when you will, but do not end when you may. I do quickly want to say that I understand the Scorn devs may have been strapped for time when making this, and so they probably were not able to expand on those aspects of the game. This is what we would call constructive criticism, so that if they do produce anything, like this in the future, then they have a better idea of what will be able to actually, work better, what complements their ideas more, let's say.